Hey folks, it's ThePatriotNurse, and in today's segment we're going to discuss what to do after the poop hits the fan. There's a lot of people who speculate what things are going to look like in this country, what things will look like across the world following a major descent, certainly from an economic standpoint. What would a major market correction look like? What would the implications be to our everyday lives, and how do we rebuild afterwards? And I think in order to answer these questions and to problem solve where we're at, we have to look at history, and we have to understand what are some of the paths that have been trodden before. I think probably the best predictor of the future is to look back at our past track record as human beings, for sure. In this country, if we are looking at the aftermath of a decent departure from our standard operating norm, if we're looking at the aftermath of an economic collapse, I think probably the best thing we can reckon back to is the war between the states, also known as the Civil War in this country. And keep in mind here, history is written by the victors, okay? So, and let me also make another disclaimer here. There is much that is left out of our public school system's education on the Civil War, the war between the states, not the least of which is the opposing viewpoint from people who had to survive Reconstruction afterwards. I am a Southern woman, and my family has been here for many, many generations. We have stories of what happened after the war ended down here. Reconstruction was not pretty, and what ended up happening is, out of no government, from the ashes of the South, from the ashes of the Confederacy, out of no government came total government. All right? And we need to be aware of this, because if we have a major descent in this nation, the government that exists at the time will be in one of two boats. One, it will be significantly weakened and be unable to respond, or the governments that do exist afterwards will have consolidated their power and will have a stronger grip than ever. And then what? Do you stay behind a curtain of tyranny? Do you live in a place where your family has been forever because you don't want to leave your home? These are questions to ask. From a practical standpoint, I'll tell you what really happens. History gets wiped. It's all the more so now in the digital age, because we can make somebody, disappear. Harkening back to 1984, we can make somebody disappear, we can make histories disappear, because people, at an increasingly descending rate, people do not have hard copies of history. They do not have hard copies of our founding documents, for sure, let alone have them committed to memory. These are things that are going to need to be reinstituted following a major collapse. And also families, right? Families are going to be part of this too. I know it's very popular to say in a disaster, you don't want to have any more mouths to feed. You don't want any more children floating around than necessary. Okay, fine. And then what happens after things are stabilized? You have a baby boom. And then with that population uptick comes an increased demand for goods and services, usually food, water, etc. So these are things to keep in the back of our minds, for sure, on an abstract level. But if you're thinking locally in your community, that's probably the most sound, because it's very easy to get distracted by large overarching concepts and large things. It's very easy to get lost in them. What we can do is to look at our communities and to look at strengthening our towns. I think it's fair to say that if we can pay attention to the details in the microcosm, that the impacts are going to be pretty pervasive in the macrocosm. So what does that mean? Let's take the fancy words out of it. What it means is that having good relationships with your neighbors is integral to this. It never ceases to amaze me, not to be judgmental here, but to be judgmental. It never ceases to amaze me when you hear people who are so committed to prepping and they have no communication, no relationship whatsoever with their neighbors. If they have a relationship with their neighbors, it's limited to, hi, how are you, versus having good, meaningful discussions about things. And not just with your next door neighbors, but within the immediate 1 mile around you, making relationships on a business level, going in and seeing the same people each day at the store, right? These are important things. This is important not just from a how do we rebuild in the aftermath, but this is important in living a full life now and having a community and honestly just being human. being a hermit and being a keyboard commando, it doesn't really help you in a disaster for sure. So I think if there's feet that we can put on this practical application point, is get out and work with your neighbors, right? Even if it's just, you know, helping them with the lawn, or, you know, getting each other's mail when one of you's out of town, something like that. But also frequenting your local shops, supporting your local businesses, and making sure that there's a strong local economy and that there are good working relationships that are functioning now. Because I'll tell you folks, the relationships in your local sphere, those are the ones that are going to pull you through in times of disaster. And also, let's just assume that everything else goes to the birds, that everything else outside of your immediate township or your town, your city, forget that. Let's pretend it doesn't exist. You are going to be most immediately influenced and impacted by the people who share your proximity. So it behooves us, if we're going to be honest about this problem, to have a dialogue with people, to be real and to be human. I'm not for paranoia. I'm not for locking ourselves up in the house and saying to heck with the rest of the world. We're pretty sorry excuses for human beings if we can't get out there and take care of each other. So if you're looking for practical application on how to rebuild after poop hits the fan, it starts now. It starts now with practicing being human and with supporting local businesses and with forging good, strong relationships with the surrounding people, with your neighbors. I hope it was helpful for y'all. If you enjoyed the video today, please subscribe to me, like me on Facebook, and follow me on Twitter. Also, if you're interested in coming to the Medical Prep 101 or 201 classes, they're probably coming to a town near you. Check out the website, www.ThePatriotNurse.com. Course descriptions, locations, prices, everything is there. Hope it was helpful for y'all, and for now, it's Patriot Nurse signing off, and I'll see y'all later.